Number 10, Chadwick Boseman. The late, great Chadwick Boseman was not just an incredible performer, but an incredible man. In his early years of acting, no matter what his status was, he was always vocal about the things that he did not agree with or understand. During a commencement speech to the graduating class of 2018 at his alma mater, Howard University, he spoke about a time when he was fired from a show for questioning the producers about the stereotypical depiction of his character. At first he was excited, as he was promised a six-figure contract, more money than he'd ever seen in his life. However, the moment he saw the role that he was playing, he was conflicted. The role was wrapped up in assumptions about people of color. He said that the character was just a young man with a violent streak pulled into the allure of gangs and with zero glimpse of positivity or talent in the character. After filming a handful of episodes, Chadwick brought his concerns to the attention of the producers, who told him that they were very pleased with his performance, a performance that he was actually fired from the next day. Apparently, the things that he was asking caught the producers off guard. The conversation over the character actually came up when he was called into the production office, and they were very happy with what he'd been doing on the show, and it was clear they wanted him around for a long time. But when they asked him if he needed anything to be more comfortable, it was his opening. He asked them if they could just discuss his character a bit for plot purposes, asking them only two questions. Where is my father? And if my mother is not equipped to be a good parent, why did myself and my brother need to go to foster care? While the producers did have answers, when Chadwick asked if they felt that he was a stereotypical character at all, the producers stared for a moment before suggesting that he speak to the writers if he had any suggestions. The goal was to give his character a new lease on life, but the next day, he was fired for speaking his mind, something he's never regretted once, and that never stopped him from pursuing his dreams. Number 9, Sylvester Stallone. Considering the success of the Beverly Hills Cop franchise, it's difficult to imagine anyone else in the leading role of Alex Foley other than Eddie Murphy. But it turns out that at the time, the role was initially offered to one of the biggest stars of the 1980s, Sylvester Stallone. What's funny still is that at the time he was not just a skilled actor, but earning an Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay for Rocky. But it seems that Rocky and the studio didn't really agree on many things, and eventually Stallone was exited from the project. One of the first major changes in Sly's version of the script was the violence. He wanted it to be ramped up to 100 and make it a real action movie. But the film was presented to him as a comedy. Even though he agreed to do it, he wanted to make some changes before the cameras rolled. He was exclusively told not to change anything about the film, but he insisted and rewrote the project as a 50-50 action comedy movie. When he presented the changes to the producers, they were not pleased with his script. In fact, quite the opposite. It was quickly decided that Sylvester would be let go as the lead and Eddie Murphy would be brought in to fill in the blanks. It was not in vain, as he took that mangled script, incorporated elements of the novel Fair Game by Paula Gosling, and eventually it became the 1986 film Cobra. Although it wasn't loved by critics, it did go on to make around $160 million globally, which pretty good at the time. Number 8, Edward Norton. Three-time Academy Award nominee Edward Norton has been the leading man in many memorable movies: Primal Fear, American History X, and of course the most famous one, but as we all know, but of course, one of his most famous and mainstream roles was in the 2008 MCU flick, The Incredible Hulk. Although the movie was not a massive success at first, the audience was shocked when Edward Norton was replaced by Mark Ruffalo in the first Avengers film. The president of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, said that the decision was not monetary, but it was actually due to the company wishing to hire an actor who embodied the creativity and collaboration that the other Marvel stars had so far shown on their projects. After Kevin made these statements, however, Norton was amicable but adamant about splitting ways with Marvel, and mentioned that his roles in Birdman and Moonrise Kingdom would oppose the loud and extravagant role that he had in the MCU. Many believe that his calm response may be because he was paid handsomely before he was let go as a little bit of hush money. Marvel is good at hiding secrets, especially from their actors, but it was still so early in the MCU that Edward was certainly aware of hidden details and events that would make him a liability in the industry. Number 7, Colin Firth. The live-action Paddington movies are surprisingly very popular. The series, based on the children's book, has really hit home for a lot of people. First and second film are currently rated at 97% and 99% fresh, respectively. 99. The success of the film can of course be attributed to the incredible cast, including the voice of Paddington, Ben Whishaw. But of course, Ben was not the first voice that had been recorded for the role. Initially, the voice of Paddington was done by Kingsman star Colin Firth. I know he's been in other things, but I love those movies and that's how I know him best. Not only did Colin record all of the lines start to finish, but he was not told that he was being replaced until a couple of months before the premiere. In some of the first promotional videos for the film, the animated bear never does anything more than grunt. It turns out that the creative team felt Colin's voice just didn't match with the vibe that they were going for. It made Paddington sound too old and distinguished when he needed to be some fresh young thing. Yeah, he was just happy to be working. Now let's get into some more dark Hollywood backstories, shall we? Number 6. Jim Carrey's origins. A Canadian legend, Jim is considered one of the greatest modern comedians of all time, famously releasing 3 films in the year 1995, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, and Ace Ventura, which all made millions at the box office, and still hold up to this day. As many know, comedians tend to have a pretty rough backstory, as the best comedy comes from a place of pain. Over the years, Jim has come clean about his strange but fun upbringing. His family struggled financially, and he grew up watching his mother struggle with depression, which he claims to have passed down to him. Despite his energy, he was a bit of a recluse growing up and apparently spent hours in his room making faces in the mirror instead of hanging out with. After dropping out of high school to work a full-time job, Jim and his family were forced to live in a Volkswagen van together, becoming homeless for a short period of time. He went on to attempt a career in comedy, at first to minimal success, but of course, he was able to find his footing and made his place in comedy history. Number 5. Woody Harrelson's father. Woody is best known in Hollywood as the wildest wild child to ever exist. He eats raw meat, he's an eco-crusader, a protester against violence, and an advocate for the legalization of herbs and spices in the United States. He's loved on screen, but did you know that his father took people out for money? And I'm not talking about on dates. Charles Harrelson was sentenced to 2 lifetime sentences for the slaying of a federal judge in San Antonio. Prior to that charge, Charles had previously been acquitted for the slaying of Alan Berg, a carpet salesman, and convicted of the slaying of Sam DeGalia Jr. Yeah, the evidence shows that Charles was not a great hit. Woody doesn't speak much of his father these days, opting to instead leave his family troubles in the past. He does, however, say that the one thing that his father said to him that he still uses to this day was, always keep an open mind. Yeah, Charles knew all about opening minds. You can't put that in the video, that's just for the editor.
I just did.
Number 4, Mark Wahlberg should be in jail. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch hit the rap scene in 1991. Despite sounding like the title of a cheesy kids show, the crew had a small following and garnered a lot of success, enough for leading man Mark Wahlberg to be spotted and picked up by Hollywood to star in The Corruptor, a 1999 action flick that sees Mark playing the leading man. Action by the numbers, kinda get it? He's had a successful acting career that has recently been declining in quality, but he's still acting and looks jacked at the age of 50-something. So please don't hurt me, Mark Wahlberg. Infinite was just hard to watch. Growing up in Boston, he was the youngest of 9 children and was relentlessly bullied by his fellow siblings. His parents divorced when he was very young, and he became addicted to no-no snow by the age of 13. He dropped out of high school and was eventually arrested when he was 18 for attempting to slay 2 Vietnamese men. Apparently, he was just walking home late one night under the influence of a hallucinogen narcotic that I won't get into, when he spotted the men. Close friends at the time confirmed that Mark had a racial biased upbringing, which caused him to be instantly aggressive towards anyone who, wasn't white. He attempted to swing a large log at them, which made contact and knocked one of them unconscious, and he was eventually released after serving only 45 days of his 2-year prison sentence, and he vowed to change his life. So far, he's kept that promise. I can personally confirm that he's very polite and patient because he actually watched a movie at a theater I used to work at. He travels with a crew of 5 people at all times. It's a little intimidating. Number 3, Tim Allen's hobbies. Tim Allen is the voice of Buzz Lightyear and the star of ABC's sitcom Home Improvement, which premiered in 1991. Now, while he may have played a family man on TV, many fans may not know that Tim was a smuggler of no-no snow in the early 1970s. According to Tim, he got mixed up with some bad people back in the day while he was selling certain substances on the street for a couple of bucks. In 1978, Tim was arrested in the Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport, that's an awesome name, and was caught with more than 650 grams, 1.4 pounds of no-no snow. Unfortunately for Tim, state legislators had just passed a law that tied a life sentence to any conviction of selling 650 or more, Like, as he was being arrested, there was a guy in his car like, okay, and if you have 650 grams. Okay, yeah, you're a goner, Tim. However, that sentence was never served, as it was revealed that Tim was set up by an undercover police officer who had been following him for months. Due to this and Tim's cooperation in providing the names of fellow dealers to the authorities, led to him receiving a lighter conviction that allowed him to be sentenced in a federal court instead of a state one, being able to ignore that new policy altogether. His information led to 20 arrests and the sentencing of a major dealer. That needs to be a movie. Number 2, they have backups. There have been many rumors over the years that Hollywood likes to clone their best and brightest on the off chance that they will need them again following an untimely demise. According to the internet, Paul Rudd actually got to star alongside his clone in the show Living With Yourself, not some CGI thing. Now, Paul has, of course, claimed the performance was achieved with CGI and filming one character one day and another the next, but come on, Paul Rudd's also 54 and looks, well, like that. Something's not right about that. Now, there is a theory out there that celebrities are made up of lizard people who take the forms of actors and singers to influence people. Paul is thought to be one of those lizard people. I don't know. I don't believe this theory. I'm just sharing some stuff I found on the internet. I don't believe any of this, okay? This is fun. It would be awesome if there were 2 Paul Rudds, though. In fact, that would probably be the most chill way to find out that clones existed. Just 2 Pauls being like, hi, I'm Paul. And another one being like, hi, I'm Paul. And everything's gonna be okay. Number 1, they're all broke. That's right, despite it being one of the most lucrative industries in the world, most of Hollywood actors, writers, directors, all of them are not as well off as people may think. Unless you've been living under a rock for the last little bit, most of Hollywood was closed for a while as its staff were on strike. Some of the toppest of tier actors joined the crew in solidarity, and they are actually still on strike right now, not stopping until Hollywood's producers and big budget studios start sharing the money they make. Actor Sean Gunn gave an interview a few weeks ago where he mentioned working on a show currently streaming on Netflix, a show that has made over $4 million in residuals, of which he has received basically nothing. This type of financial woe extends to a ton of people in Hollywood. Just wanted to take a moment to wish luck to anyone who's still out there, and hey, awesome that the writer part of the strike is over. That's pretty sick. Number 10, Katy Perry collects hair. The singer was once asked during an interview a very simple and cute question of, "What's in your purse?" And fans perhaps hoped that she would respond with a bottle of Killer Queen or a cupcake crumb. But Katy Perry answered, it's just a big empty bag. But she went on to describe what used to be in the purse. She claimed that while in attendance at her first Grammy Awards ceremony, she got to share a dressing room with Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift. Now, with all that excitement, you'd think she'd ask for a picture or something, right? No, she asked them for a lock of each of their hairs, which Katy found, quote, totally awesome. Well, her definition of the word awesome must be very different from ours, because this sounds just creepy as all heck. She then elaborated that she would tie little bows to each of them and put them in her purse. Now this sounds so made up, how could it be true? Well, Miley and Taylor actually backed up this story online, and Perry claims to this day that Miley Cyrus is both the most famous person in her purse and in her contacts. Oh, hey, Katie, I think you dropped something. Number 9, Ellen mistreats employees. In her first on-air appearance since announcing the end of her eponymous daytime talk show, Ellen DeGeneres called the press cycle around allegations of toxicity at her workplace orchestrated and misogynistic. The announcement that her show would be canceled came after months of receiving negative press following a BuzzFeed article reporting former employees alleging that the environment was racially insensitive, filled with harassment and bullying. Ellen maintained in interviews that these allegations were not the reason that she would be leaving the show, simply claiming that the program was no longer challenging for her. While the BuzzFeed report did not allege toxic behavior by Ellen herself, several former staff members claimed that the whole "be kind" motto she had was not genuine at all, which was reflected in a Twitter thread published by comedian Kevin T. Porter. He asked people to send in their horror stories about the host's rudeness over the years, and he received over 2,000 replies. Warner Brothers opened an investigation and concluded that there were some flaws in the day-to-day management at the studio. Following this, Ellen appeared on the 18th season premiere of her show in 2020 and made an on-air apology to viewers, claiming responsibility, later stating that there was no way she could know the true nature of the work environment due to the 255 employees that worked for her across multiple buildings. Hey, ever heard of like a complaint box? Number 8, Prince Charles's affair. He's now the King of England, but he's not always played by the rules. You see, in 1981, Prince Charles, at the time, married Lady Diana, who was 20 years old at the time, leaving a 13-year age gap between them. Behind closed doors, it was speculated that Charles was never in love with Diana in the first place, and it was later proven to be true. While on the outside things seemed pleasant, behind the scenes Charles was secretly meeting up and having an affair with his ex-girlfriend Camilla Bowles. The alleged relationship was written about in the 1992 Diana Her True Story book, but in 1994 Charles confirmed the allegations in a documentary, cause that's a great place to do that. The couple filed for a divorce in 1996 and Diana died 1 year later. While the now king made it clear that he had no plans to remarry, he ended up getting remarried in 2005 to, oh hey, look, it's Camilla Bowles. Shocking. Number 7. Jonathan Majors charges. Jonathan Majors may be familiar to those of you who are fans of the MCU as Kang the Conqueror, the newest big bad addition to the never-ending roster of villains in Marvel's Rogue Gallery. Unfortunately, it looks like he may end up getting the CGI eraser treatment due to an incident in March of this year. Majors was arrested on misdemeanor charges of and following a domestic dispute with his girlfriend. These charges, however, would only be the first domino to fall, as rumors began circulating about similar instances in the past, with many people in both the Yale community, where he went to school, and the New York theater scene, where he studied and practiced performing, claiming Majors was well known for being emotionally violent and professionally abusive, but never physically violent. While Majors is currently in a battle to prove his innocence, claiming the situation to have been blown out of proportions, a series of texts uncovered by his lawyer seemingly proved that there was some merit to the incident. They showed Majors' girlfriend had passed out during the incident and as such had to be hospitalized, where she was reported to have several bruises and scratch marks throughout her entire body. This meant that the charges would stick, and Majors is definitely on his way to the bottomless pit of cancelled celebrities. Number 6. Caitlyn Jenner's transition. Now, this one isn't disturbing because of Caitlyn, it's because of how many people felt that her business needed to be a part of their lives. Let people live, you jerks. Rumors had been circulating of Caitlyn's transition since the early 1970s. The former Olympian had publicly denied these rumors for years, with many family members and friends even backing her story up time and time again. But in 2015, the rumors had begun surfacing again due to Jenner being spotted leaving a doctor's office by a tabloid journalist, supposedly after just receiving estrogen treatments. Jenner had also recently undergone reconstructive surgery, which seemed to only add more fuel to the fire. The photo taken and the speculation began to go viral, despite Jenner not being fully out at the time. But a few months later, following these events, she came out as transgender on a highly publicized interview for Diane Sawyer. In the interview, Jenner expressed the gender identity struggles that she has faced through her entire life, having to hide her true self in order to maintain some macho, sporty persona and for fear of not being accepted. Even revealing that her first wife, Christy Scott, was the first to really understand her struggles, and despite being divorced in 1998, she's publicly expressed her well wishes towards Caitlyn and how proud she is for being herself. You go, girl. Number 5. Kevin Spacey. For a long time, Kevin Spacey was well known in the Hollywood community as a quality actor with a steady career and no signs of that stopping. That was until October 2017, when a BuzzFeed article, once again, had been published alleging that Spacey had made unwanted advances towards a then 14 Anthony Rapp. Spacey was quick to deny the speculation, claiming it to be another Hollywood scandal to fill screen time, but since the release of that article, 30 more people have come forward with their own allegations against Spacey, ranging from harassment to attempted assault. Spacey pulled back, fake apologizing for what he says must have been some drunken behavior to Rapp, and he even attempted to shift the subject by coming out of the closet. But the truth had already been set free, and becoming a part of the now famous Me Too movement, Spacey was dropped from all projects he was involved in and has been on Hollywood's blacklist ever since, where he rightfully belongs. Number 4. Tiger Woods' infidelity. Since 1999, the famous golfer had not gone a single year without winning at least one golf major championship. In fact, between the years of 1997 and 2008, he had won 14 majors. He was married to a model, had a beautiful home, and pockets full of cash. What more could you want? Apparently for Tiger, he wanted someone that wasn't his wife. In late November 2009, Tiger was seen by neighbors being chased out of his home by his wife, Ellen Nordegren, with a golf club, before peeling out of his driveway in his Escalade and crashing into a fire hydrant and then a tree. He lied unconscious on the street for 6 minutes before coming to, but by that time, it was already too late. News coverage began speculating that there must have been some case of infidelity with Tiger and his wife. And while rumors had speculated that Tiger had a mistress on the side, it turned out that this guy had a lady in every course, so to speak. He admitted on air to the misdoings and lost his endorsements with Nike, Gatorade, Gillette, and Accenture, before announcing his retirement entirely from golf. Woods reportedly confessed to sleeping with 120 women outside of his marriage, but it wasn't until April 2010 when Ellen decided to split up with Woods for good after she discovered that one of those mistresses was the next door neighbor's daughter who was in college at the time. Go Capanu! Number 3. John Lennon's investigation. Lead guitarist of the Beatles and an incredible musician in his own right, John Lennon was always very open on his political views. He was anti-war, anti-establishment, and anti-government, proven by his counterculture-esque songs like Give Peace a Chance. This marked Lennon as a national threat, and his theory on what that meant was a little fishy. Many times in interviews, he would claim that he was under surveillance 24/7 and that he was seeing the same cars driving near his residence essentially every day. Now, while at first this was taken as the ramblings of a hippie under the influence of mind-altering narcotics, this theory was proven to be true in 1972 when the Immigration and Naturalization Service tried to deport him after the FBI had confirmed that Lennon was under investigation for over a year. He was able to fight back and stay in the country to continue his anti-war agenda. See, hippies aren't always crazy. Okay? Number 2. Arnold has a secret kid. Action movie star and former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger made headlines in 2011 with the revelation that an old rumor was in fact true. In 1996, Arnold was married to Maria Shriver, a member of the Kennedy family, and they were prepping to welcome their new son Christopher into the world. Arnie didn't prep by building cribs or baby-proofing the outlets though. Instead, he chose to have an affair with his longtime housekeeper Mildred Baina. Around the same time Christopher was born, so was his illegitimate son, Joseph. Rumors began to rise after his wife noticed the strange and sudden absence of the housekeeper and wondered if there may have been a more sinister reason for her departure. It was later revealed in 2011 though that Arnold decided to address the rumors and claim Joseph as his own. It turns out that Arnold had given Mildred a large severance package so that she could properly raise their son, leaving on what they called good terms. Eventually though, after many years of trying and lots of paperwork, Maria and Arnold were finally divorced and he is now able to spend more time as a father. Mildred is a chef and little Joseph is now all grown up and following in his father's footsteps as both a model and in the movie industry. And number 1. Donald Trump's criminal activities. In 2006, Donald Trump was known solely as a wealthy real estate mogul with a hit reality show called The Apprentice. He had recently been married to Melania Trump and he had a newly born 4-month-old baby. However, reports leaked that Trump was in the midst of an affair with adult film star Stormy Daniels after she filed a civil suit claiming that the contract he made her sign to keep quiet was invalid. Daniels claimed that herself and Trump had shared a very intimate relationship for roughly a year during his marriage to Melania. These weren't the first allegations of an affair, as Trump has been back and forth in the media since the 1970s, being accused by 26 women of harassment or misconduct. While these rumors never held any merit at first, the truth was finally set free. After being the most chaotic president in recent history, it was announced in March that Trump was being arrested on 34 separate violations of a New York law against falsifying business documents to conceal another crime. Basically, over the years, he was essentially taking company money and using it to pay off anyone who might have been a threat to him, both personally and politically. Well hey, thanks for the free money, Donnie. We'll see you never.
And at number 10, fake relationships. I think at this point it's clear that most Hollywood relationships are faked for PR. Occasionally these fake relationships actually turn into real love, but most of the time these fake couples split as soon as the movie comes out, making it painfully obvious. One of the most obvious cases of this was the on and off again relationship between Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart during the Twilight days. These two would always be in a relationship when their newest movies were dropping, but then a few weeks after the release, they would break up. Since they split almost immediately after the final Breaking Dawn movie was released, it's clear that it was all a lie. Also, the pair looked so uncomfortable when they were together, and now that we see what they look like in a happy relationship, it's clear that they weren't in one. And at number 9, paid paparazzi. If you've ever wondered why some celebrities look amazing in paparazzi photos while others don't, it's because a lot of celebrities hire their own paparazzi to make sure they never look bad in a photo. The most recent celebrity to get called out for using this tactic was Addison Rae. While Addison was out in New York, she happened to get a ton of great photos of herself out and about in the city, and Page Six called her out for tipping off the paparazzi about her location so she can get a ton of good pictures. Page Six called it, quote, "a move straight out of the introductory course at the Kardashian Institute of Advanced Fame Grasbury." Apparently, Addison specifically wanted good photos of her outfits so that she could become known for her style. This move has long been used by the Kardashians back when they were up and coming, and now it seems that Addison is taking tips from her new friends. And at number 8, fake bodies. It's no secret that almost everyone in Hollywood has had some work done. Usually it's minor things like Botox and fillers to maintain youthfulness, but some celebrities went through major changes before making it big, and these cosmetic procedures were the reason that it all happened. Apparently it's an open secret that celebrities will change their bodies to adapt to the times to maintain marketability. But the worst part is that most celebrities don't own up to these big changes, so fans will think these people are effortlessly perfect, and it starts to impact the everyday person's self-esteem. One of the most common procedures seems to be a nose job, and most celebrities that are deemed au naturel have had it done. Blake Lively, Scarlett Johansson, and Jennifer Aniston are just some of the celebrities that fans are convinced had nose jobs, but they will never admit it to fans who think it's all elite genetics. And at number 7, award show corruption. Many fans assume that Oscars and Grammys are given to those who truly deserve it, but once you pull back the curtain, that's really not how it works. And an open secret is that anyone who wants to win one of these awards must campaign for it and basically bribe the judges. This can be in the form of actual money or things like vacations and expensive gifts. Back in 1981, actress Pia Zendora won the Best Newcomer award for her role in the movie Butterfly. It was a shock to everyone until it was exposed that her husband paid off the voting members to ensure that she won, and over time the practice did not get better. In 2011, publicist Michael Russell sued the Hollywood Foreign Press Association for firing him. He was trying to expose the corruption with the award show, and they didn't like that. The parties settled the dispute out of court. And at number 6, cheating. Movies often take months to film. That's long, grueling hours away from family and friends, stuck with the small same group of people. Because of how it all works, movie sets are breeding grounds for extramarital affairs, especially if you're spending a lot of time with your love interest in the movie that you're hugging and kissing all day on set. There are truly too many examples to name, but there's a solid chance that one of your favorite actors cheated on their spouse during the filming of a hit movie. The most famous are Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Kristen Stewart and director Rupert Sanders during the filming of their project. And obviously, this happens a lot more than it's reported. Halfway number 5, fake names. The vast majority of Hollywood A-listers do not use their real names, instead they concocted a stage name. This is done for a variety of reasons. Sometimes just because their old name isn't as flashy, but other times the reasons are pretty dark. For some examples of celebrities with fake names, Martin Sheen's real name is Raymond Antonio Gerard Estevez, Jamie Foxx's name is Eric Marlon Bishop, and Marilyn Monroe's real name was Norma Jean Mortensen. Then other times a name change can be used to hide nepotism. Like for instance, Nicolas Cage's real name is Nicholas Coppola, and he's the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, a famous Hollywood director. This familial connection landed Nick Cage his first role in the movie Peggy Sue Got Married. Other times a name change can be to hide racism. Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actor Chloe Bennett, real name Chloe Wang, said, quote, "Hollywood is racist and wouldn't cast me with the last name that made them uncomfortable." And at number 4, stuntmen regularly lose their lives. Stuntmen are a very common thing on movie sets, because A-list actors aren't able to do the stunts that we see in a lot of action movies. But fans might not know what a dangerous job that it is, and stuntmen regularly get critically injured or even lose their lives. And for how vital their role is to these movies, they are not paid fairly. The average stunt person pulls in about $250K a year, which sounds great, but is nothing compared to the about $20 million that the movie stars are making. Big name stars are obviously the ones that sell the tickets, but they're not the ones who put their lives on the line. During the filming of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, Daniel Radcliffe's stunt double David Holmes got hit by a staged explosion, and he was so seriously injured by the fragments that he suffered a neck break that left him fully paralyzed. Then on the set of Deadpool 2, a stuntman lost their life during a car crash scene. And at number 3, substance misuse. Following the release of the biopic Judy, we got to see the horrible practices the movie execs would use to get their talent to do what they wanted, specifically using illicit substances to wake the actors up and keep them on set working for very long hours. According to a 1982 New York Times article, use of these substances became so common that movie insurers would put clauses in their contracts to cut losses from these sorts of incidents, because several deaths and injuries on set stem from the use of these substances. In her 2013 memoir, Debbie Reynolds, the female lead for the 1952 musical Singing in the Rain, recalled that when her grueling schedule started to take a toll on her health, a studio executive told her to quote, take vitamin shots from his doctor. Then Judy Garland revealed her mother would give her quote, pep pills to ensure she had enough energy to film all day. Because of the toll these substances took on her health, Judy unfortunately passed away at the age of 47 because of an OD from these substances. In at number 2, inappropriate behavior runs rampant. So I'm gonna have to dance around the subject a bit for this one, but the things that have been exposed during the Me Too and Time's Up era are not new and have been happening for decades. Harvey Weinstein wasn't the first and only power player in Hollywood to use his power to get women to do what he wanted. And this all goes back to the idea of the quote casting couch, where you are expected to do sexual favors to these executives in exchange for a role. And there are many examples of this behavior taking place in Hollywood. Even worse, this behavior can also happen against one study even found that 94% of women employed in the American film industry have experienced sexual harassment or worse. This is a staggering number that should make everyone push for change. And finally, at number 1, discrimination problem. The problem of diversity in Hollywood is something that's being brought up more and more over the years, and when we look at some of the stats, it's pretty wild. Only one woman has ever won the Oscar for Best Director, and that was Kathryn Bigelow for the 2008 movie The Hurt Locker. Also, only one African American has ever won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay in the history of the Academy. That was Jordan Peele in 2018 for Get Out. But the problem is not only in the cast and crew of the movies, it's the higher up of the business in general. A 2016 Washington Post investigation reported that 96% of Hollywood's decision makers were white and 87% of them were male. Clearly a large gap between those demographics and what we see in society today. A study of 100 movies released in 2016 also showed that about 70% of speaking roles in that year's top 100 films were white, leaving 30% to account for Black, Asian, and Hispanic people. Another shocking stat was that just 31% of speaking characters were female.
Number 10, an advocate for Maui. Oprah has been claiming to be many things since this Maui backlash thing has started. A good boss, a charitable woman, and an advocate for the island of Maui. By starting this fund and donating her spare millions, she's made her mark in the public as a woman who cares, so much so that she's asking you to give her your money. Isn't that nice? As mentioned in previous videos, Oprah would not care about Maui or its people if she didn't have a vested stake on the island. Oprah has had property in Maui for quite some time, being almost a second home to her. When the fire started raging, she started fundraising. Think about all of the things that have happened in the past few years. We all forgot about Australia being set on fire in 2020. A lot of Western Canada was on fire earlier this year, and some parts of Florida have been underwater for a long time, and they just kind of live with it. Yet Oprah has dedicated her time and money to helping out the area where she has a vacation home. Do with that what you will. Number 9, the NDAs. Confidentiality agreements are not uncommon in the world of Hollywood. Marvel will literally track you down if you say anything about their movies to anyone. In Kitty Kelly's tell-all book about Oprah, the author mentions there were confidentiality agreements that co-workers and guests were made to sign. This included everyone from Tom Cruise to the guy who made his breakfast in the morning. Over 500 staff members were forced to sign these documents, with one former employee, Elizabeth Cody, trying to write a book about her time working for Oprah, but she was eventually stopped by the courts, still being tied to the agreement. The NDAs were not meant to be a way to just keep show secrets safe, but any and all of Oprah's secrets as well. According to Elizabeth, the document was signed by almost everybody in Oprah's life, and she may have had this brand of sweetness and kindness, but that it was just not how she was. Elizabeth felt that she was in Oprah's pocket after she signed the paperwork. In 2010, there was even a lawsuit filed against Oprah and her company from a training performance center that was claiming that they were fired for violating the terms of her agreement, but all they did was just advertise that they were doing stuff for her show, so I'm not sure what's wrong there. Number 8, diva. On air, Oprah is portrayed as this wholesome, sweet lady, but according to her stepmother, there's actually this unknown side to Oprah, hidden from fans for years. According to Barbara, Oprah is one of the most controlling people that you're ever gonna meet. She claims that Oprah does not allow herself and her husband to stay at Oprah's home whenever they try to visit, which means that they have to stay in hotels with money out of their own pockets. Barbara also said that Oprah was very quick to anger when it came to her staff especially, with a lot of people being fired over the years left and right for the littlest things. things. But that's not all. Despite being a billionaire, Barbara allows Oprah to stay at her home when she visits, which she just complains about the entire time. The first time she ever stayed there, Oprah allegedly complained that her bed sheets weren't 1,000 threads and that her bath towel wasn't big enough, but that's fair. This woman has billions of dollars to do literally anything she wants, and what she wants to do is make her family feel like a burden to the world. Number 7, controversial beliefs. Oprah has had plenty of controversial people onto her show, from so-called medical experts to psychologists to celebrities. Whatever's good for TV, it's good for Oprah. One particular incident that caused a ton of backlash for Oprah was when she did an interview with Suzanne Summers. She was brought onto the show to share her beauty secrets on how she was able to look so young. According to Summers, this treatment that she does on a regular basis would help people. She claimed that she rubs estrogen cream into her skin on one arm and smears progesterone into the other arm. Progesterone is just a fancy way of saying steroids. She also claimed that she took 60 supplements and vitamins a day, 40 in the morning and 20 before bed. What really stirred the pot was that this woman claimed to be a health expert and self-help author, but surprise, surprise, doctor, she was not. Medical experts started bashing Oprah, claiming that this type of extreme hormone therapy was actually the cause of several diseases and illnesses, like cancer. Despite Suzanne's claims that her specially made non-FDA approved bioidenticals were natural and safe, they were actually just synthetic conventional hormones that you could buy from a pharmacy. A little label smacked on the front. Oprah did everything in her power to sell this idea to her audience, believing 100% that these methods were useful, even claiming to have used the methods to make herself feel incredible. So Oprah would rather risk her audience getting cancer than telling them the truth. Solid. Number 6. The free cars. Who could forget Oprah's famous words? You get a car, you get a car, everybody got a car! The moment was historical on her series and was parodied time and time again, and it still does to this day. However, what a lot of people do not know is that it wasn't as simple as here's some car keys, go have fun. That would be insane. No, when someone gives you anything on television, especially if it's free, there's a catch. For Oprah's audience, the catch was that if they wanted to drive away in their brand new car, they'd have to pay over $7,000 in taxes first. While Oprah's studio would cover the sales tax and registration for the cars, their audience members were given a choice to either pay $7 grand and take the car, or just simply keep that cash instead. The famous moment she shouted this on the show featured 11 real teachers who were, according to Oprah, in desperate need of a new car. They, along with the audience members, received keys in a box on camera that Oprah claimed to be for their new cars. Everything has a catch though, even now. For someone who was known for being charitable and generous, the word free really does mean something different to Oprah. Number 5. The fabricated memoirs. This is a time when Oprah kind of ruined someone's life when she brought them onto her show. Oprah launched her book club in 1996, a reading encouraging segment from her talk show that turned any book that she chose into a bestseller. In September 2005, Winfrey picked A Million Little Pieces, a brutal and painful memoir by James Frett about his years-long struggle with substance control issues. A Million Little Pieces became the best-selling nonfiction book of that year, and Frey was asked to appear on her talk show to discuss the book that Oprah called gut-wrenching. However, the following year, a news outlet ran a very expositive article about Frey after it was discovered that he made up or juiced large portions of his memoir. For example, there is a section of the book that tells a story of Frey surviving a fatal train crash that took the lives of 2 teenagers. Well, he was never on that train and he didn't have anything to do with that situation. He just wrote about it and was like, I was there. Weeks after the article broke, Oprah asked Frey to return to the show, where he faced livid viewers and an even more livid Oprah. She told James that she felt duped and betrayed, which was a feeling that was shared by her audience and millions of readers around the world. When she asked James why he felt the need to lie to herself and her readers, he tried everything, making every excuse he could think of, and he claimed that he altered a lot of details, but that the overall plot was real. While the studio audience responded with a massive wave of boos, gasps, and groans, and Winfrey later apologized for the mistreatment from her audience, because that wasn't her intention. But the damage was already done, and this dude's career as a writer is non-existent. Number 4. Lance Armstrong. 7-time Tour de France winner Lance Armstrong has gone down in history as a man who's unable to ride a bike without chemical training wheels. In an interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2013, Lance was brought on to discuss the allegations floating around regarding his status as a Tour de France winner. Several sources claimed that Lance had to take performance-enhancing substances to win each and every race, as well as a type of transfusion involving the red life juice that flows inside all of us. Armstrong went on air and fessed up to every single thing that people were claiming claiming he had done. However, he did deny the notion that he was like a mastermind who would control his teammates and force them to join in his extracurricular activities. But amidst his admission of guilt, say that 10 times fast, there was a moment where he tried to pin the situation on his battle with cancer. He wraps it up by saying that he should have tried harder to cancel the culture rather than to create a problem. Well, unfortunately for him, he was stripped of all 7 Tour de France titles and has since lived in exile among the cycling community. Number 3. Where's the beef? In spring of 1996, the United Kingdom apparently experienced an outbreak of bovine spongiform encephalopathy, or mad cow disease, since I can't pronounce that last word. According to the FDA, the disease destroys cows' central nervous system, and if humans eat the infected meat, you get zombies that can't count. No, you can contract a deadly variant called Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, probably named after the first dude who got the disease. During the mad cow scare, the Oprah Winfrey Show booked Howard Lyman. The former cattle rancher had adopted a vegetarian lifestyle, and he went to work for the Humane Society's Eating with Co-Science Animal Welfare campaign, and he appeared on the show to discuss the threat of mad cows to America. He pointed out that feeding the remains of mad cow to infected cattle or other animals could have facilitated the spread, and that a lot of that was happening in the US right then and there. Oprah was stunned and vowed that she would never eat another burger ever again. Well, it turns out her influence and her millions of viewers were so large that only a few hours after the episode aired and she declared that she wasn't eating hamburgers ever again, the price of beef stock plummeted, staying at an all-time low for 2 months. In fact, one Texas rancher lost an estimated $6.7 million and organized a class action lawsuit against Oprah and her show for talking trash about beef. After a 6-week trial, she won, leaving one dude with no farm and out hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Number 2. Trespasser. So, there's a video circulating the internet that a lot of people are interpreting as a direct message to Oprah Winfrey. Jason Momoa released a video on his Instagram a few weeks ago urging tourists not to come to Maui as the place was on fire and, they didn't need anybody's help. He claimed that he appreciated anyone sharing love for the people of Maui and continued to say that there was someone trying to scam people out of money that was pretending to be him online. After sharing links to several sites that were directly linked to putting money into the pockets of the people of Maui, fans decided to focus on the bit about people staying away. Now, at the same time that this was happening, Oprah and The Rock had announced the People's Fund of Maui, and the thing was that caused a lot of backlash for Oprah. And in Jason's video, he does not include a link to the charity and doesn't even acknowledge its existence. He has since spoken about the charity, but has never actually said the names Oprah or Dwayne out loud. People are just putting 2 and 2 together though, and the internet has decided that Jason Momoa has called Oprah Winfrey a trespasser. Number 1. Whoopi Goldberg. In author Kitty Kelly's unauthorized Oprah biography, Kelly claims that Whoopi Goldberg became a persona non grata, or an unwelcome person in Oprah's life, after Whoopi was nominated for an Oscar for her role in The Color Purple. The book noted that following the honor, the comedian never appeared on Oprah's show again and was noticeably shunned from her 2006 Legends Ball. It wasn't until Oprah invited the entire cast of The Color Purple onto the show that the so-called feud was addressed. It turns out that Oprah had actually ran into Whoopi at Tyler Perry's party sometime after the 2006 snub. Goldberg confronted Oprah, leading to a hilariously adorable moment where Oprah asked why Whoopi was mad at her, to which Whoopi was like, "I'm not mad at you, I thought you were mad at me, what's going on here?" They mutually agreed that they really should have just picked up the phone a long time ago and figured the whole thing out and settled the dispute.
Coming in at 10, Tom Cruise is an alien. Tom Cruise, as we know, is one of the most famous members of the Church of Scientology. There is so much mystery surrounding the church, but particularly surrounding the galactic ruler Xenu. According to the Washington Post, Scientologists believe that Xenu once expelled humans to Earth from another planet, and their disembodied spirits live in everyone. Saying that, many have theorized that Cruise is in fact part alien spirit. It has also been rumored that Cruise built an alien bunker at his Colorado estate out of fear that Xenu would attack again. Coming in at 9, Walt Disney's body. Now, prior to Walt Disney's death, his health had been deteriorating for many months before he finally agreed to enter St. Joseph Hospital in California on November 2, 1966, where a walnut-sized spot was discovered on his left lung. After a successful surgery and 2 weeks of post-operative care, Disney was released from the hospital before growing too weak and returning to the hospital again. His health then began to fail even more, and Walt died 2 weeks later when his circulatory system collapsed on the morning of December 15, 1966. Following his death, numerous claims were made that his body was frozen somewhere at Disneyland, specifically under the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction. Yikes. Coming in at number 8, Dolly Parton's ribs. Like Cher on our previous list, Dolly Parton has also been the subject to ridiculous rumors about her tiny frame. However, the singer clarified that she's never undergone any such surgery during a 2014 interview with Woman's Day. I quote, "I went into a restroom in Los Angeles years ago and this girl said, 'Oh, I want you to tell me, does that really hurt?' I was like, 'What? Does what hurt?' She said, 'Like when they take your ribs out.'" She then went on to debunk the rumor, saying that her waist is little because nothing grows in the shade. Coming in at 7, Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is a pseudonym of an unidentified serial killer who operated in Northern California from at least the late 1960s to the early 1970s. The killer targeted 4 men and 3 women between the ages of 16 and 29, with 2 of the men surviving attempted murder. After years of searching, the true identity of the killer has never been discovered. However, there are some out there who believe it to be Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Now, there is no evidence suggesting that this is even remotely true, other than the fact that the senator bears a small resemblance to the sketch of the killer. In fact, an exhaustive investigation by the Washington Post revealed that Cruz was born in 1970, while the first known killing by the Zodiac was in 1968. However, that hasn't stopped people from speculating. Coming in at 6, Cameron Diaz's face. Now, this one is just bizarre, honestly. In 2011, Pop Sugar asked Cameron Diaz what the weirdest rumor she had ever heard about herself was, and she said, "It's that I only wash my face with Evian water." So where does the theory come from? The actress went on to state, I quote, "We live our lives in trailers. Actors are like circus folk. People don't realize that it's super unglamorous. And the water in the trailer comes from tanks they put chemicals in so that it doesn't freeze. It's like antifreeze. You would never wash your face with it. So anyone who washes their face at work would have to use bottled water to wash their face. There's a grain of truth in everything that someone has taken it and just spoiled it. So was someone ruining everything for everyone?" Coming in at 5, Justin Bieber is a reptile. According to some theorists and Australian news website Perth Now, during one of Justin Bieber's visits down under a few years back, hundreds of eyewitnesses apparently saw their idol turn into a giant reptile. Now, allegedly, several witnesses served up some incredibly interesting quotes, including, "There were girls hiding in toilets, crying, guys were running for the exits, jumping in taxis to get out of there." Classic. Apparently, the star in his reptile form has a black stripe down the middle, and big scaly claws that lash out angrily. Now, of course, there is no evidence to confirm the rumor, not to mention the fact that the idea of a lizard person is biologically impossible. But coming in at 4, Marilyn Manson. Rumor has it that before launching into his music career, shock rocker Marilyn Manson played Kevin Arnold's sidekick, Paul Pfeiffer, on the popular TV series The Wonder Years. However, Pfeiffer was in reality played by Josh Saviano. But the rumor doesn't stop there. According to theorists, Saviano grew up, changed his name, and reconfigured his career to become satanic rock singer Marilyn Manson. In reality though, the singer was 19 years old when the Wonder Years began, meaning he would have been far too old to play pre-teen Pfeiffer. Again, people don't like math, so they don't want to do that. Coming in at 3, Mr. Rogers' sweaters. Born Fred Rogers, he was a television personality, musician, puppeteer, writer, producer, and Presbyterian minister. He was also the creator, showrunner, and host of the preschool television series Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Now, the star was known for his adorable sweaters, but this rumor goes that he wore those sweaters to cover up the tattoos from his time as a Navy SEAL. However, the truth of the matter is, Fred Rogers never served in any war. He was actually a devoted Presbyterian minister who neither smoked nor drank. Sad times. Can't relate. In at 2, Taylor Swift is a clone. A couple years back, an image cropped up online of a woman named Zena LaVey, a high priestess of the Church of Satan. However, it was incredibly difficult not to see the striking resemblance between herself and pop star Taylor Swift. Of course, it wasn't long before rumors began swirling, including one that stated Swift was a clone of LaVey. I quote, "The conspiracy theory is that Swift was taken and replaced by the Illuminati with a clone of LaVey, who is apparently a member of a secretive cult, according to BuzzFeed. Neither Swift nor LaVey have debunked the rumor, therefore it must be true." True. And finally, coming in at number 1, Beyonce kidnapped Sia. In 2016, this crazy theory emerged on Brazilian social media that Beyonce kidnapped fellow pop star Sia and was holding her hostage as her songwriter. Well, a hashtag even began trending on Twitter called Save Sia. The rumor seemed to have begun because of a misinterpreted article back in 2015 in Billboard in which Sia said that collaborating with Beyonce is like a writing camp and that she's very Frankenstein when she comes to the songs. I don't know how that suggests kidnapping, but to each their own, I guess. Like, was Beyonce down in a basement cutting up people's limbs and sticking them to Sia? I don't think so.
Number 10. Portia de Rossi. In her 2010 groundbreaking memoir Unbearable Lightness, Portia de Rossi reveals the pain and illness that haunted her for decades, from a time she was a 12-year-old girl working as a model in Australia through her early rise to fame as a cast member of the hit television show Ally McBeal. She also detailed her struggles with and while living in the public eye, and recounted how she survived on 300 calories a day and took 20 laxatives daily, trying to maintain a weight of 82 pounds. According to her memoir, Portia both starved herself and putting her life in danger and concealing from herself and everyone around her the seriousness of her illness, and described the elaborate rituals around food that came to dominate hours of every day. The actress did this all while terrified that the truth of her sexuality would be exposed in the tabloids, and revealed the heartache and fear that comes from living a life in the closet, which was only magnified by her unrelenting desire to be thinner, more in control of her body, and the number of calories she consumed and spent. But it wasn't all bad. Portia also recounted how falling in love with Ellen DeGeneres helped her develop a healthy body image, embrace her sexual orientation, and gain inner peace. Number 9. Janice Dickinson. A strange encounter with Bill Cosby in 1982 was described in the 2002 memoir No Lifeguard on Duty by the self-anointed world's first supermodel Janice Dickinson. In her book, she reveals real moments that she experienced with Cosby and goes into great detail when it comes to taking back the narrative. Janice mentioned how Cosby allegedly answered his hotel room door in nothing but a towel and kissed her. He then took her to dinner and suggested that she follow him back upstairs. The memoir was pretty explosive at the time and would come back into relevance in 2018 when she chose to testify in court to Cosby's crimes. The comedian was once known to millions as America's Dad, famous for his clean brand of family comedy and his award-winning work with children's programming. So Janice's memoir really did help expose Cosby's double life, as eventually more than 50 women came out claiming that the star slipped them illicit substances and took advantage of them while they were unconscious. And in April of 2018, an 80-year-old Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison, although he would eventually be released in 2021. Number 8. Corey Feldman. In his deeply personal 2013 memoir, child star and teen heartthrob Corey Feldman exposes the darkness that loomed behind his rise to fame. Although he undoubtedly had a successful career, famous friendships, and high-profile relationships, Corey reveals a side to his star-studded life that no one knew about, and it's full of tragedy. He came from a broken family that he emancipated himself from at the age of 15. As a teenager, he suffered physical, emotional, and sexual violence. The Stand By Me star was also arrested and struggled with addiction throughout his time as a successful working actor. But most shockingly, Corey also implied that his close friend Corey Haim's lifelong battle with addiction was the result of being preyed upon by a powerful older man. Following the book's publication came rampant speculations about the identity of the offender, and it's something that readers still argue about to this day. His memoir Choreography weaves a heartbreaking story of pain and survival that reveals just how dark the industry can really be. Number 7. Holly Madison. Former Playboy bunny and Girls Next Door star Holly Madison dished on how oppressive life with Hugh Hefner really was in 2015's Down the Rabbit Hole. Madison described the many bizarre rules and rituals that Hefner imposed upon his girlfriends. For instance, that they needed to wear matching flannel pajamas, engage in group dressed in tiny skirts and bralettes, and had a daily curfew of 9 p.m. The memoir tells the story of Madison's time with Hefner from 2001 to 2008 and its aftermath. She goes into great detail about the reality of her life behind the cameras, how her depression in the Playboy mansion reached harrowing depths, yet she felt trapped there. She also opened up about her unwillingness to admit to anyone how sad she really was, and Hefner's emotional control over her. The book also explores her time on the reality show The Girls Next Door and the weirdness that was pop culture in the early 2000s. When speaking about her book, Holly said, quote, "I felt like I had something to say about being in the midst of that whole thing that was going on where Paris Hilton and Jessica Simpson and Kendra was so celebrated, and I was a part of it too, for being dumb on TV. Part of the reason I wanted to write the book was to show the other side of it, which goes to show you just how much of it was all for the cameras." Number 6. Shania Twain. The Grammy-winning country singer confronted her childhood demons when she wrote her 2011 memoir From This Moment On, describing how her stepfather Jerry Mary was physically, sexually, and verbally violent towards her and her mother Sharon. In a frank and often shocking autobiography, the singer reveals graphic and personal details about her rags to riches story and the price of ambition and success. Throughout her memoir, it also became clear that Shania experienced a harrowing degree of poverty and hunger. For instance, she claimed that sometimes there was only bread and mustard for her and her 4 siblings to eat, and they often wore plastic bread bags to cover their shoes to protect their feet during winter, and regularly went to school without lunch. The singer also had to deal with a double betrayal in her life. She wrote about the heartache that she went through when she found out about the affair between her husband of 14 years, Robert Lang, and her best friend. As a result, Shania became so distraught that she literally lost her voice to spasmodic dysphonia, which left her unable to sing. So her memoir explores how she worked through all that heartbreak. Number 5. Sharon Stone. She became a Hollywood icon and a household name after her role in Basic Instinct, and in a 2021 memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice, she finally reveals the vulnerability behind her femme fatale persona. She goes into great detail about her experiences in Hollywood, like how she was tricked into that famous shot in Basic Instinct, and ill-equipped for fame when it finally came to her. She was also routinely taken advantage of in the male-dominated film industry. She claims that the filmmakers were not entirely honest about what they captured with the camera, and so they didn't have her complete consent to put that scene in the film. Quote, "I do think we have to create a think tank that really addresses what is a crime, what is a felony, what is consent." The name of her memoir actually comes from a life-changing brain hemorrhage that she suffered in 2001 that almost killed her. It left her without the basic ability to function, and she ended up losing her family, her career, and a huge part of her life, which she had to start again from the ground up. Stone also talks about how she went through a childhood of and violence to a career in an industry that actually brought back a lot of those memories for her, although in Hollywood it was all hidden under the cover of money and glamour. Number 4. Leah Remini. A former longtime Scientologist, King of Queens star Leah Remini opened up about her experiences in the church in her 2015 memoir Troublemaker. As a teenager in the church's Sea organization, Remini said that she was reprimanded for sunning by the pool at the Scientology-run Sandcastle Hotel in Florida, and as a punishment was taken out to sea on a boat, thrown overboard, and nearly drowned by a group leader. Not only that, but she was also once fined $40,000 after confessing to stealing food from the headquarters 20 years earlier. In her memoir, Leah also made some shocking allegations about several well-known Hollywood celebrities. In fact, she recalled a time that her and her husband, Angelo, spent time at Tom Cruise's Beverly Hills mansion when he invited a group of well-known Scientologists and other celebrities, including the Smiths. She actually called Will and Jada Pinkett Smith famous friends of the church, and even mentioned the Scientology school that they opened, revealing that despite Jada's denial, she is indeed good friends with Tom Cruise and an active member of the controversial religion. Number 3. Jeanette McCurdy. Described as both heartbreaking and hilarious, iCarly star Jeanette McCurdy's bluntly titled memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, gives fans a glimpse into what really went on behind the cameras, something that up until now fans have only been able to speculate about. Jeanette exposes her traumatic experiences on Nickelodeon and the disturbing truth about how she was mistreated by her mother, who pushed her to be a child star, noting that the persona she was known for throughout her youth and her young adult life was a front forced upon her by her mom, who, in addition to everything else, was extremely physically inappropriate with both her and her brother, even when they were teenagers. Jeanette also discusses the perils of young fame and reveals that she developed anorexia as a child, and talks about why she ultimately quit acting altogether. She also details numerous instances where she felt exploited as a teen actor, both on and off set. The actress refers to the person behind the demands as simply the creator throughout the memoir, never naming them. She simply describes him as mean-spirited, controlling, and terrifying, calling a time when she was filming an episode of iCarly that he insisted that she wear a bikini instead of a one-piece swimsuit, which she preferred. The revelations in her new book are absolutely shocking, and they really expose the traumatic experience of being a child star. Number 2. Christina Crawford. At the height of her fame in the 1940s, Joan Crawford had a considerable reputation to uphold. She won a 1945 Best Actress Academy Award for the lead role in Mildred Pierce. She lived in a beautiful house in Brentwood, LA, and used her wealth to adopt and raise 4 children, including Christina Crawford. For all of this, Joan was celebrated operated in the public eye and had extensive magazine spreads about her happy family life. But to her daughter, the facade was a complete lie, and eventually her frustration at the discrepancy between her mother's private existence and her public reputation bubbled over. In 1978, she published Mummy Dearest, which told the truth about her mother's character, that she was a sadistic perfectionist. It was the first tell-all celebrity memoir to talk so openly about childhood and subsequently was a worldwide sensation upon its release. In fact, it stayed at the top of the New York Times bestseller list for 42 weeks and even resulted in the 1981 film adaptation starring Faye Dunaway that would go on to become a cult hit. To this day, most people associate Joan Crawford with that infamous scene where she launches into a vicious tirade after discovering Christina's dresses were hung up on wire clothes hangers. So it's safe to say that her reputation never recovered. And coming in at number 1, Rose McGowan. In her 2018 memoir Brave, the outspoken actress takes readers behind the scenes of her life in Hollywood, where she has become known as one of the fiercest and realest women fighting to expose the ugly truth about Harvey Weinstein and the systematic misogyny that has defined the industry for so long. The most outspoken of all of Weinstein's accusers, McGowan opens up about when she first met the movie mogul at the Sundance Film Festival, but only refers to him in her book as the monster. She was at the premiere of her 1997 film Going All the Way when he sat behind her. The next day she was sent to his hotel room, where the two talked about films and her acting goals. But as he walked her out, McGowan writes that he pushed her into his bathroom, forcibly backed her into the wall and ripped off her clothes. But most shockingly, after the incident, the actress was driven to a photo op with her Phantoms co-star Ben Affleck. When she told him what happened, he simply said, "Damn it, I told him to stop doing that." Her memoir couldn't be more relevant to current events, as to date, 84 women have come forward with allegations against Weinstein, and he is currently serving a prison sentence of 23 years.
At number 10, Rock Hudson. Imagine taking one of the biggest secrets about who you really are to your grave. That's essentially what happened with famed Hollywood actor Rock Hudson. Rock was one of the hottest leading males in Hollywood in his heyday, but he lived with a huge secret for his whole life, and people didn't end up finding out about it until after his passing. When Rock passed away in 1985, it was revealed that he had died from AIDS. He became one of the first and most famous Hollywood celebrities to pass away from the illness. Because the illness was so heavily associated with being gay, speculation began to float around saying that Rock had been hiding his sexuality from the public this whole time. This all turned out to be 100% true, as friends and family of Rock confirmed what the public had been thinking in a biography on the actor. In the book, it was revealed that he had an ex-boyfriend named Lee Garlington, and he was described as Rock's true love. Rock's secret was really only known by his closest friends and family and an inner circle of Hollywood, and a lot of them fought to keep his sexuality a secret in order to preserve his career. I couldn't imagine how tough it would be to have to keep such a big part of who you are a secret from the world. At number 9, David Cassidy. Oftentimes we try our best to be open and honest with our struggles in life, but for some it's hard to share some of the things that you might not be too proud of. This is what caused actor David Cassidy to keep a pretty big secret from the public that wasn't actually revealed until after he passed away. Before he passed away, David shared with the public his struggles with dementia. Fans believed that the actor was suffering from the disease, and so when news broke of his death, people just assumed that it was the dementia that ultimately took him. But it wasn't until the documentary about the actor called David Cassidy, The Last Session, came out that the public learned the truth about David's health. It turned out that the actor was never actually diagnosed with dementia, and that this wasn't what was harming his health. Instead, it was alcohol poisoning that he was struggling with, and that ultimately took his life. In the documentary, the actor admitted to everything, saying, quote, "There is no sign of me having dementia at this stage in my life. It was complete alcohol poisoning, and the fact is, I lied about my drinking." End quote. One of the documentary's producers spoke out about having known about the actor's struggles before the public, where they said, quote, "We didn't want to exploit him, but ultimately he was honest about what killed him, and we decided that his legacy would be best served if we shared that." End quote. Before we carry on talking about some of the juiciest celebrity secrets, why not take a brief moment to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, why not subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Gene Wilder. When someone is diagnosed with a serious illness, it becomes a very tough and very personal
personal decision of whether or not to tell people about it. I know people who chose to keep their illness a secret until the end, and this is exactly what actor Gene Wilder did. Gene passed away in 2016, but it wasn't until after he died that the public learned about the secret that he was keeping in regards to his health. It turned out that the actor had been battling Alzheimer's for over 3 years before he passed away. After learning this, a lot of people wanted to know why this news was kept secret from the public, and the reason behind it is so touching. Gene didn't reveal his condition to the public because he wanted people to remember him as he was and not someone who was sick. He wanted to keep the smiles on the faces of his fans. In a statement released by Gene's family, they elaborated on the situation, saying, quote, "The decision to wait until this time to disclose his condition wasn't vanity, but more so that the countless young children that would smile or call out to him, 'There's Willy Wonka,' would not have to be then exposed to an adult referencing illness or trouble and causing delight to travel to worry, disappointment, or confusion. He simply couldn't bear the idea of one less smile in the world." End quote. At number 7, Corey Haim. Unfortunately, as much as there's glitz and glam in Hollywood, there's also a dark side, one of those dark sides being harming and manipulating others. This is sadly something that actor Corey Haim experienced as a child actor in Hollywood. Both he and his best friend Corey Feldman experienced the dark side of Hollywood, and though Feldman has been pretty outspoken about what he endured, Haim on the other hand kept that top secret. The one thing that he kept absolutely hidden was the identity of the person who seriously harmed him. Haim went to the grave knowing the identity of the person who harmed him, but this secret isn't completely lost, as it's alleged that Corey Feldman actually knows who did it. Feldman tried in the past to get his friend to expose the person who caused him so much pain, but Haim refused because he was so scared that this individual would try and hurt them again. Haim made Corey promise that he would share the story of what happened to them if he died, and Corey did share some details, but again, the identity of the person who hurt Corey Haim remains a secret. At number 6, Sally Ride. Up next we have another celebrity who unfortunately didn't get to live their life as open as they should have been able to, as they went to the grave with a huge secret. Astronaut Sally Ride was the first American woman to go to space. She became widely known for her presence in the NASA community, promoting education and interest in space, and specifically devoted much of her life to helping girls excel in STEM. She did a lot for her community, especially women and young girls, but there was another community that she was a part of that no one really knew about until after she passed away. When Sally passed away in 2012, her title grew to not only be the first American woman to go to space, but also the first astronaut to be acknowledged as gay. Sally's sexuality was never public knowledge until her obituary named a woman named Tan O'Shaughnessy as her partner of 27 years. At number 5, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's personal life was often a hot topic in the media during her life. People were obsessed with what went on behind closed doors, the good and the bad. Though a lot of her personal life was exposed, one thing that remained a secret until her tragic passing was a horrible incident that she had endured when she was younger. After some digging and a published documentary, the world learned that Whitney was once a victim of inappropriate contact. After the singer passed away, her former assistant told the documentary team that Whitney had once confided in her to tell her about what she had endured when she was younger. The assistant told cameras, quote, "Whitney looked at me and said, 'Mary, I was harmed at a young age too, but it wasn't by a man, it was a woman. She had tears in her eyes. She says, Mommy doesn't know the things that we went through.'" End quote. Though she never spoke publicly about what happened to her, it is believed that Whitney once hinted at it in an interview when she got really emotional when talking about adults taking advantage of children. At number 4, George Michael. Imagine being portrayed negatively in the media for basically your whole career just for the narrative to make a 180 after your passing. This is the case with singer George Michael and how his public image changed after he passed away. During his career, George was seen as scandalous and the media really dug into this while he was alive, but after he passed away in 2016, the truth about who George Michael really was came out, and it was a very different narrative. He took the secret of his philanthropy to his grave, but many people wish that he was around to be appreciated for giving back to the people. The public came to learn that the singer made many large donations to a wide array of charities like cancer support groups and the Terrence Higgins Trust, which is an HIV awareness group. He kept all of his donations a secret and made sure that no one receiving these donations knew that he was behind it. He was a secret angel giving back to people without receiving any credit, which just shows that this help was genuine, not just for good press. At number 3, Prince. Another celebrity who was something of a secret angel of sorts was Prince. After he passed away in 2016, secrets about the singer started to come out, some of those secrets being about his philanthropy. One person, an environmentalist who worked for the Green Jobs Act, came forward to talk about one of the donations that they had once received anonymously from Prince, where they said that they received a check for $50,000. At first, they sent the check back because it was so out of the blue and they didn't really trust it, but to their surprise, the check came back again, this time with a phone call. The environmentalist then went on to say that the person on the phone said, quote, "I cannot tell you who the money is coming from, but his favorite color is purple." End quote. On top of this anonymous donation, Prince also co-founded an educational effort to help teach minority youths technology called #YesWeCode, and he also made a donation to the family of Trayvon Martin. Speaking out about Prince's philanthropy, his ex-wife said that he never wanted to make these donations public so as to not overshadow the charity or the case. At number 2, Anthony Perkins. Known for his role as Norman Bates in the Hitchcock film Psycho, actor Anthony Perkins lived a pretty quiet and private life, but he also took a very big secret to his grave. When news broke of his passing in 1992, it came as a sudden shock to people. But what the public didn't know at the time was that Anthony had been secretly battling a serious illness that he kept from the public. For 2 years before his passing, the actor had been secretly receiving treatment for AIDS. Speaking out about her husband's treatment, Anthony's wife told sources, quote, "He went twice to stay at a hospital and once as an outpatient, and we went under another name. You think that this man has spent his entire life giving people so much pleasure in show business, and this is his reward. He can't even be himself at the end." End quote. Anthony knew that when the public found out about his condition after his passing, there would be a lot of questions as to why he never publicly revealed his condition, and so before he died, he wrote a statement to be read once he passed on. In the statement, the actor wrote, quote, "I chose not to go public about having AIDS because, to misquote Casablanca, I'm not much at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of one old actor doesn't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world." End quote. And finally, at number 1, Billy Tipton. Billy Tipton was a famous jazz musician who kept a huge secret from everyone. This secret was so hush-hush that not even his closest friends or family knew. Billy had a pretty solid career in the beginning. The 40s and 50s were Billy's time to shine, rising to fame and taking American jazz by storm. Billy's career started to decline, however, after he declined an offer for a recording contract and to open for Liberace. After that, the musician started to fade out of the spotlight. Over the course of his life, Billy was married 5 times, adopted 3 kids, and was considered to be a real family man. But one day, when Billy suddenly collapsed, his secret was revealed. While paramedics were trying to save him, it was discovered that Billy wasn't biologically male. Like I mentioned before, no one knew. Literally no one, so this came as a shock to everyone. It turns out that Billy dressed as a man in order to be allowed into the world of jazz. Because of this huge secret, Billy was forced to live a pretty private life in order to avoid being caught.